one thing I heard in my first week of school, and it absolutely stuck with me the whole way. You never want to be the smartest person in the room, or else you're hanging around the wrong people. And I was like, oh, that changed my perspective completely.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, I'm cutting off dumb people. first and foremost.
Yeah.
Second of all, if I'm not learning something new, so the thing is it worked hand in hand with the second piece of it is like you have to be a sponge. You have to absorb everything. Some of the best leaders out there do as much listening, if not more, than talking.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm
Welcome
like,
to the It's Not That Deep podcast. I'm your host, Deepak Sharma, and today I sit down with my good friend, Alamin Mollick. Now, Alamin's a super interesting guy because we both went to business school together, and he's taken what he's learned to become an expert in all things finance and accounting and leverage that to work at some very interesting startups. Alamin shares his knowledge on networking, some practical tips on how to progress through your career, as well as taking charge of your own professional development. We get to talking about some of his most recommended books, the power of having a strong morning routine, and so much more. If you're enjoying this kind of content, please subscribe, share, rate, or consider contributing to my Patreon page to help me grow the brand. Remember, it's not that deep, and enjoy. Man, welcome to the It's Not That Deep podcast, brother. Thanks for coming on.
I'm super pumped. Thanks for having me, man.
It's really nice to have you on. We have been talking about this since the beginning.
I know.
Like, literally since I thought about having a podcast and we met, we talked, we were discussing the ideas.
Yeah.
You were one of the first guys to actually ride with the wave. You were completely on board from the beginning, man.
Honored you, though. Yep, 100%, man. I knew you wanted to do it. It was like conceptualization, right? And you knew how to put the equipment together, types of guests you wanted to have, the messaging you wanted to get out there. It just needed to be done. And then you just went and did it. And you've been learning so much as you've been putting it together. It's exciting.
That's what it's been, man. It's been a learning process. Cheers, brother.
Yeah, cheers.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Let's give people a little bit of a background, what you're all about, our relationship. I've known you since the first day of university.
Yeah.
We met during Frosh Week.
Yeah.
And I remember, those, it seems like yesterday. Fun times. We've made so many friends that have lasted even up to today.
Oh, yeah.
And, we studied business together. We had some rough times in university, but we survived. We came 100%. Out on top. And now you're leading a pretty successful career already.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it a little bit, man. You're a controller.
Yeah.
I think a controller, right?
Yeah.
A controller at Rewind.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, for sure. So Rewind is a cloud backup and restore service for businesses that have different SaaS applications. So the company today backs up Shopify, BigCommerce, QuickBooks, MailChimp. And so you think back to 2015, or when Shopify has been launched, merchants are launching their businesses. They're putting together all these lists for products and item categories, and they have customer lists, they have orders, all this data. And if any disaster were to happen, they're going to go to Shopify first, as any merchant would, to go get that data. But then they find out they can only get a CSV of that, right? Just a spreadsheet of all this raw data.
Yeah.
And they can't exactly use that to get their store back up and running. There's Black Friday or Cyber Monday, and you're supposed to have crazy sales that period. Not going to happen when that happens, right? So Rewind makes it super easy for that merchant to back it up, just one item, the whole store. If a theme crashes the store, it goes all the way back to where you need it to be. So it's just a simple solution. You set it and forget it, and it's automated recovery.
And it's something you can just build into these apps and these programs, like a widget almost, just like something that just builds right in and backs up your things on a regular basis.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just, in the app marketplace of any of these companies. So, today it backs up there's 5 products, but we're expanding it to more and more platforms.
But big products. These are very big and have a lot of impact. Like you said with the Shopify store,
right.
People are relying on this for their business.
Yeah.
My website is powered by Shopify.
Yeah.
Not like there's a ridiculous amount of business riding on it staying up. But
Mhm.
if things were to go down and I was given a CSV file, I'd be pretty upset.
Yeah, of
So I can
course.
only imagine people processing thousands of orders and
Yeah.
that kind of thing. So it's a very valuable company that you're a part of, man. And
Yeah, yeah.
but it's not always been a direct, easy journey.
No, no,
You
for
didn't
sure.
just wake up one day and work at this super cool tech company.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's talk about the journey a bit since university, bro.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's a great starting point of how I came to where I am today. So while I was going through university, one of the things I decided not early on, but I started a business in third year, which Euphoria. So it was in the entertainment space. We were doing event production,
Yep,
right?
definitely want to talk about that.
Yeah, for sure. So for the listeners out there, my friend Zach, who was also on this podcast,
Yeah.
second episode, really close friend of mine from university, he was also in accounting with me, and he called me up one week, very early in the year, saying, hey man, I have a business idea, and I really would love you to be a part of it. And I'm like, okay, sure, I'm listening. He's like, I have this idea of opening up a music festival one day, and I want you to help me with like finance and operations. And I'm like, whoa, okay, a music festival? What is this, right? Like, we're gonna get $3 million to get Drake on, right, and stuff. So he's like, no, let's start this out small. I think small shows in the city, and if there's some traction there, and we see an opportunity to move up, then we can go to medium-sized concerts, go into one of the parks in Ottawa, one of the stadiums. And then if that goes well, man, maybe a couple of years, you could make a case to do a festival. I was like, you know what? Why not? Right. So this, goes into like me deciding, okay, I want to do a couple things university. I want to make the most of it. I want to do a business. I'm going to do some work part-time. I'll still go to class, but I was like, it was not worth the effort for me to try and be an A student. I'm like, all right, I'm just going to be a B student. So doing that, I started to go through a lot of different hoops in the entrepreneurial journey. We made a lot of money in our 2 years of running. A decent amount of money. We learned a lot, invaluable, absolutely invaluable. We built a team. We had some big fails, we had some big wins, and throughout the journey, as I got closer to the end of my fourth year, I was like, okay, well, I wasn't sure if I wanted to go in accounting yet. I was like, I really just love business in general. I love marketing. I love HR. I love everything. I love analytics, everything business. So I was like, and I was
all the people, sorry to cut you off,
Yeah, no.
that I went to business school with, you were one of the ones who I felt was most well-rounded and you probably had the most propensity to actually go far with business.
I appreciate that.
Of all the people, and I actually genuinely mean that. Like, you actually had an interest in the things that you were learning and taking bits and pieces of everything. It wasn't just like, I'm going to be an accountant.
Yeah.
Studying accounting, I'm going to be an accountant.
Oh, for sure. Thanks,
But
man. I
yeah,
appreciate that.
but yeah, continue. So you were harmonizing all these different subjects.
Yeah. No, it means a lot, by the way. And the thing is, I'm not a traditional accountant. You think stereotypical, sits behind the desk, maybe introverted, doesn't like to talk to people. I love talking to people. I used to work in sales. I used to work at the bank in sales and relationships. Like, I'm a very extroverted guy. So, taking all that in, I'm like, okay, I like numbers. I love like looking at data, making insights, presenting about it. So, there was a professional management consulting program that launched at Telfer.
Right.
And I was part of the first cohort when it came to its genesis. And I was like, okay, as we got closer and closer, I'm like, this is what I want to do. So, listeners out there, I was like, okay, I'm for sure going to be a consultant. I'm for sure going to go to Accenture or Deloitte or KPMG. I'm going to be a consultant. And as it got closer to the end of the year, I went to this event that U Ottawa hosts every year, Startup Garage.
Okay.
So it's the program that takes a bunch of small businesses, entrepreneurs who apply for funding for a summer to be in this program. They get space to work in. They get a bunch of mentorship. So I was just going there to see who the cohort was because we had applied to Euphoria, but we didn't get in.
Right.
So when I went there, the keynote speaker it'll make sense after, but my keynote speaker, Alain Gubo, was chief operating officer at Farmlead.
Okay.
And I'm watching him speak, and he's got a pretty impressive background. I went to Harvard Law School. He was a consultant at McKinsey, top 3 consulting firms in the world, right? I'm like, whoa, okay. And he's a COO now.
Yeah.
He's like, my title says chief operating officer, but what do I actually do? I'm a business analyst. I'm a grant writer. I'm a payroll, financial analyst. Like, all these different things, and I'm like, oh my god, he has his hands in everything, right? Like, it's like true entrepreneurship, getting his hands dirty and getting in there and doing stuff. So I messaged him. I added him on LinkedIn. I messaged him. I'm like, hey, Alain, I loved your presentation. It was really inspiring. I think you have such an incredible background. I would love to sit down with you for coffee at your near your office and just ask you your questions and learn and pick your brain, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I don't know if you'll respond, but sure, I thought he was a big shot, right? So then he messaged me back and he's just like, yeah, sure, here's my email. Feel free to send me an invite. We can do my office. So I'm like, okay, cool. So then a day before I was meeting him, he's like, by the way, are you looking for a job by any chance? Like, we might be hiring for something, but send me a resume. But if you totally just want to talk, that's cool too. And I had some interviews. Like, I had like some accounting firms and government and different interviews had lined up for full time. But I'm like, all right, whatever, sure, I'll send my resume. So
Yeah, what's the worst that could happen?
yeah,
Send
of
it
course.
over.
Just send it over, whatever. Lo and behold, he happens to be from the same hometown as me, like close by. He was living there, so I grew up most of my time. I was born in Montreal, but I grew up most of my life in Hawkesbury, Vanklekill area. So he was like 10 minutes out of Hawkesbury. So that's the first thing he says. He's like, "Oh my God, I saw on your resume you're from Hawkesbury." Like what? Like, so okay, great, rapport point right there. You know? So we met up for coffee and he was just telling me about his career path and he loves entrepreneurship and they have seriously big plans because they had just raised a round of money, something we can get into later.
Absolutely.
About how sort of financing works and startups and the different stages, right? So they had raised a Series A. So for the listeners out there, I'll give the quick summary of how it works. So, when you go and launch a business, you as a founder, let's say another co-founder, the two of you are probably gonna put your own money into it, right? So that's just your own investment. As the first round of money usually raised, it's called a friends and family round. So you're gonna ask a couple of different people in your network who wouldn't mind writing a $5,000 check, maybe a couple of them. Might include angel investors, so people locally who are willing to write that kind of money to finance your business.
Crowdfunding, maybe? Would that
Crowdfunding is also a big financing. Yeah, good point. It's growing more and more in popularity. They'll put a business out there. They'll open it up to and put their whole share options agreement and everything out there, and people can just invest. So it's almost like being a public company, but you're private. Like it's cut off after that. So it usually starts with friends and family round, and then the first round of money you take that's external from real investors, right? Sometimes these angels are not real investors; they're just people who have money that they can give you. So venture capitalists, usually the first round of money is called a seed round, right? And so it can be around $1 million. It could be less than that. It could be 3 million. But it's usually, I typically haven't seen it being more than 4 or 5 million, at least in Canada, Toronto, and Ottawa. So you go from friends and family round. You've built a product. You've gone into market and proven some sort of model that people want it. Now you've been able to raise a seed round, so you're scaling up that model a bit. You're proving that you can drive revenue and get customers to stick around. And now, after you've proven that, you're going to be moving into Series A. So Series A is the next round where you're trying to scale the business a bit more. You're really numbers driven. And at that point, you raise a lot more money. So in Farmlead's case, they'd raised $6.5 million USD. You're building out the team. You may be expanding it internationally. And so I talked to Alain, coming back to it, and he was telling me about all these big plans they had. We're going to penetrate the U.S. market, Argentina and Brazil, South America. Farmlead can go international. We have, there's lots of demand.
And let's take a step back before we go further into this and actually talk about what is Farmlead.
Yeah, of course, right. For the listeners out there.
Yeah,
absolutely.
No, because, you obviously understand it, and you're doing a great job explaining the seed round, but let's tell people a little bit about Farmlead itself. What is it?
Yeah, so Farmlead was an online grain marketplace. In simple terms, it was a Kijiji. You could buy and sell different types of grains. So you have farmers who are the sellers, and then you have buyers. They could be biofuel manufacturers. They could be beer manufacturers, right?
Like so it's business to business.
So it's business. Yeah, exactly. You could say, right? Farmers, some farmers are just solo farmers, so they could be individuals, but for the most part, it is business to business. So it's an online grain marketplace.
So that's why, a lot of just normal people wouldn't hear too much about it.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's still a very interesting company. So getting back to the financing.
Yeah, of course. So I'm having coffee with Alain. He's just asking me what am I interested in. And I was like, I think I want to be a consultant. I love strategy and operations. I love numbers. I love talking to people and meeting new people. And I asked him, you said you were looking to place somebody in a role. Like, what is he? Just like, oh, we were just thinking like project by project basis, somebody just come in and be an extra hand. Is that something interesting? I'm just like, sure. Like I think you have a great background. It looks like there's a lot of smart people here. Two of my friends are also working there that just graduated from Telfer, and so I was like, that's something I'd be interested for. And he's like, okay. So he pulls two other people from the company, the VP marketing at the time, and the special projects manager. And we talk, and he's like, okay, well, nice meeting you. We'll chat. So that night I just sent him an email like, hey, LA, tell me what your rate is. He's like, and so I sent him an email. I was like, I'd love the company and what you're doing with it. And I'd love to be part of the journey and learn from you. Yeah. Here's what I think I could start at.
Yeah.
What do you think? He's like, cool, come in next Wednesday. So I was like, oh, wow. All right. So,
this is how things work. It's not like how they explain it in the textbooks.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Definitely not. And that's the thing. I found most of my university grade, and you can attest to this, is a lot of it is referral driven, right? Ottawa's a small city. If somebody gives you a warm introduction, it's pretty likely you're going to get an interview. They're not even going to do this whole application screening process of your resume, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, coming back to it, I come in my first week, and this is, again, in my mind, I'm still like, I'm going to be a consultant. I love strategy and operations. The startup thing, cool, sounds good, but I was really in there like, he's a McKinsey consultant. I'm going to learn all this from him, right?
Yeah.
So I come in like
still with the mindset of consulting's the end game.
Yeah. And so, and this could be anybody. Like, you're a student, like you're not sure, you haven't dipped your feet enough out there.
Yeah.
I tried a lot of different things, but I didn't know what a growing startup might look like. And so, I come in first week, he's like, okay, we need a new HR information system. You have to set it up. I'm like, what the heck? Okay. So I have to learn Bamboo HR, this HR information system. I have to implement it across the company, communicate it. I'm like, okay, that's the first week. Second week, he's like, I need you to do UX, UI analysis using this tool called Hotjar, where it tracks website recordings, heat maps of where the most popular places are to click, all that stuff. I'm like, okay, never done this before, but all right, another project.
You're willing to learn.
Willing to learn, right? So I'm going through all these different things. The third week, he's like, okay, we're going to be manufacturing, we're going to be getting grain bags sent out to our farmers so that they can do grain tests and get quality check and specs on their different wheats and corns or whatever, right? So he's like, I need you to set up manufacturing. I need you to just get an order from China. So I'm like, okay. So now I have to set up a supply chain in China, talk to a plastic bag manufacturer, go through all that.
Jeez, that's a lot of responsibility to give a kid just coming out of uni, right?
You think, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay. So they only answer at like 10 p.m. Yeah. That's morning for them. So I'm like, all right, whatever. I'll answer them, and just to keep the communication aligned. So then the fourth week comes around. I'm at my end of my first month. He's like, hey, like, you did an accounting degree. Like, would you be able to help me with some bookkeeping? I'm just like, yeah, sure, I'd love to. And so this is kind of where it started. I started doing like 60-70% of my time I was doing accounting, and then I was doing other special projects as per my role on the side. So the end of the summer comes, and he's like, well, do you want to stay? And I'm like, absolutely. I've learned so much, right? Like, this kind of breadth of work, all these people, I was having a great time. Culture is very different in a startup, right? Like, everybody's hands-on. Communication is easy, right?
The lines are a lot more blurred when you see a position. It's not like you're going to be doing a lot more than what your job description says you're going to be doing.
Absolutely, right? So you're pushing yourself hard. And, when that time came around, I was like, all right, see, consulting, that's not a thing anymore. I just jumped in the startup. And, it's really tough. Like, again, coming back to the original question you had, which was like, how did you get to where you are? It's really tough. Like, it didn't come without its challenges and hurdles, right? Like, out there, like, no, like, people make mistakes. Like, I made stupid accounting mistakes, like messed up some revenue stuff. And these are just early on, right? Like, I'm getting used to like trying to get good at QuickBooks, issuing financial reports. And then, he's like, okay, we need investor reports for our board meetings, all these different things that require like very high level view. I'm like, whoa, okay. So, a lot of responsibility thrown on, managing a lot of different things, doing some office management, all these different things that are moving. And I'm like, okay. So it got to a point though that in the winter of 2018, it started to get a little bit more repetitive because I had scaled up a few things, but the bookkeeping side, just day to day, became repetitive. And I was like, I was in this mindset. I was like, the business was going well because they were getting a lot of volume in the marketplace, but I was getting bored in my own day-to-day job because as business increased, my day-to-day increased because I had to account for everything. And I'm like, okay, this is boring. So at that point, a lot of people can hit that point where they're just like, okay, you know what? My job has become repetitive. They don't do anything about it. They either stay and, they wake up not as excited every day.
Start resenting the place they work. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Or, they go somewhere else. And I'm like, no, there's a lot of opportunity here still. I'm going to get in and do some, I'm going to do some different stuff. So I was like, okay, I'm going to automate my job. So I begged to my boss. I was like, look, like this is taking 80% of my time.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be. Like it used to take like 20, 30, 40% of my time, right? It's going crazy and I can't get my hands in other stuff and I can't learn new things. And I'm like, please let me get an engineer to, I'll write a spec for them. So a specification out for them on what they can automate for me. Because I know our back end can talk to QuickBooks so we can get this going. So I never done this before, but I'm like, I'm going to figure this out. So, 3 weeks later, after conversing with the engineer, our back end engineer, and setting up, the process of like, okay, this is how I want this reported onto QuickBooks, all these different things, different tax rates, all that you can just imagine. Again, because I'm trying to automate it, right? Everything's got to run crystal clear. And then we're doing testing. So, after it gets implemented by the end of the month, like I'm doing it 5% of the time now. My job just completely got freed up. You could you could let me go, and the company would be fine. You just need a little bit of oversight. So, but that became an opportunity. I'm like, fantastic. Now I have 95% time free again. I'm gonna start doing other stuff. So then I was like, okay, I'm gonna redo our sales taxes and for Canada and US. I had to figure the different stuff out. Okay, I'm gonna take care of our audit that's coming up because the board's gonna need that. I'm going to redo our financial reporting. I'm gonna consolidate. I'm gonna restructure our chart of accounts. So our how people would look at our financial reports, what different sections. I'm gonna try and get better analysis on it. So all these different projects I was just thinking of and coming up with, and so it led to a point where my boss was like, hey, you're moving way faster than I thought. And you know more accounting than I do, and I ever will. So I can't teach you anything anymore. You're going to have to go out and seek out your own mentors. And I'm like, oh, okay. So, I'm like, I'm right. I did some research on LinkedIn. I looked at some distinguished tech CFOs and controllers in the city. And I just hit them up on LinkedIn. I was just, I found their email Hunter, great tool. Because I'm like, okay, everybody's busy, business person. So sending an email is something, they're likely to see it, right? So my subject title, and I'm sure I've like shared this like thing with you of like how I go about it, right? So, want to learn more about your experience, right? And, that's one of my subject titles, I met the CFO of Clipfolio, for example, and I was just like, hey, Gord, my office is not that far from yours. I see you have an incredible background in finance and accounting, especially in tech. You've raised a lot of money, and you've joined not too long ago there.
And
it sounds
you make exciting. You make it a lot easier, too, for them to meet you. You come to them. Like you're not trying to make it an inconvenience for them. You don't want to make it fucking like an annoying part of their day.
Absolutely.
Like, I gotta go see this guy now.
Bingo.
Like I gotta go down, take a taxi or something.
Yeah.
No, you're like, no, I'm coming to your office.
Exactly.
I'll come have a coffee with you in your building.
Literally, yeah. That's the tip, right? Like the whole idea is you try and make it as easy for them as possible. I was like, I can meet you at your office, whenever it's flexible. So I always say like I'm always free because even if I'm not free, I'll move a meeting or whatever. Like I'll make myself free if I can get a chance to sit with them for half an hour, 45 minutes, right?
Right.
I schedule it in the calendar. And it's likely to happen. Like no one's ever said no type of thing, right? So luckily. And so anyways, again, going back to this career roadmap, I then started to get this mentorship, right? And so, they talk about how there's 3 types of role modeling, okay? And so, one of them is somebody who's above you and is doing something that you want to do one day, right? Something you aspire to be. So whether it's professionally, personally, that's the type of person you are trying to seek mentorship from. And then you have peers. So that kind of role modeling is probably somebody who's taken a parallel journey. So, one of my good friends, Marcus, at a company called Hoppier in Ottawa, he's the head of sales there. And him and I, we went to school together. We love startups. We love business. And he works in sales. I work in finance, but he's a peer. Like, we talk business a lot, and we share our journeys and how we're trying to go about it. And we click very well. And so, we're always teaching each other different things, different, stuff we're reading, and things we heard on podcasts.
Can't wait to get
books.
into that with you.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
And then there's people that you mentor, right? Because it has to come full circle. So
I like that.
yeah, right. So there's somebody that you're aspiring to be like. There's somebody who's running in parallel with you, and there's someone that you're passing down your teachings, right?
Because that teaches you a lot too. Being a mentor is a learning experience as well.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised. So they had interviewed a bunch of billionaires and asked, out of that percentage, how many of you mentored versus got mentored, right? And more of them were doing mentoring than receiving mentorship.
Interesting.
So it goes to show, like, it's interesting statistic because you'd think it's the other way around, but it is a very important thing that you do make time to mentor others, right? Because those solidify your teachings. Things are, the world is changing, right? I had mentors who were 30 years, 40 years older than me. I am teaching them a lot of different things, right? Like a partner at an accounting firm, Logan Katz, he was my mentor during university. And, he was asking me just like, what technology, because he was trying to get more technology clients, what kind of businesses are interesting to you? What are the jobs that you guys are trying to get, right? Because obviously the ones that capture our eyes are going to be formidable clients for them. Right?
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So again, coming back to it. So I went through all these steps and this is a whole nother conversation, but then I was like, okay, I feel I'm deserve a promotion. I feel I'm ready to move up because I've done all these big, high-profile projects. I've saved the money. I've saved the company money. I've been able to build up on my role on different things. I didn't just automate and then sit back and chill.
Yep.
I found out different ways to get better. And so then I was doing research and I didn't know how to approach that conversation at the time. But I was like, hey, my 1 year's coming up. I'd love to. I was past my 1 year, but because when I was a contract.
When I was
so
your
contract.
official 1 year performance review is coming up.
Yeah. And so I was like, I'd love to sit down with you and talk about it, right? And so, he doesn't know this, but like I spent like 2 weeks working on this deck, like putting all this stuff. I'm like, year-over-year comparison, what I did a year ago, what I do now. All these bullet points of like big project highlights, right? Like what I did.
Yeah.
Money that I saved for the company, where I believe I went beyond, and not just me, but like my own work, but like where I helped others, where I tried to be a team player, values that I go by, right? Like I'm data driven, I'm honest, like these different things, right?
Sounds like so above and beyond. Like this is what top performer 1% type people do, man. This is not your everyday fucking office worker who's just clocking in and just waiting to be gone.
Yeah.
You're out here preparing a deck.
Give me that pension.
Exactly. For this performance review. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Man.
No.
I like that a lot.
I appreciate that, man. No, it's
How'd that
sure.
conversation go down? Tell us about it.
Yeah. So I may have told you a little bit before, but so it was like a personal pitch deck basically. And the thing is like I was overthinking about it, and only 2 days before I had to present, it all came together. I'm like, what am I thinking about this so hard for? I was like, look, you know who I am. I'm very entrepreneurial inside. Like I started differently. It was very anecdotal. Like I was like, this is why I had first come into the company. This is what I want to do. And that kind of led into what I did accomplishments wise. And then, then I said, this is what I think my role is. So here's the thing. I'm going to give a few tips out there, right? So when you go about negotiating and trying to get a promotion, you need to be coming in there much more informed than he should be, right? So, like, you are the driver of your own career. And so, if you're going to go in there and ask for promotion, you should know the salary, you should know the benchmarks. And, one tip I'll give you is if you went to Telfer and you worked in sales, well, you're going to talk to other people who work in sales, maybe different size of companies, smaller bigger companies, smaller companies, other cities, but you're trying to get a benchmark like of your own network first, right? You can look online, but sometimes that's not really going to be
fully indicative of
exactly, right? So you're gonna do those. You're gonna do a couple things, but the goal is to come in there more informed. Because let's say you want a raise, you feel you deserve a promotion, you come in, and you don't know the salary. You come in there so you're getting paid 60K and you're like, I want 65. And then he's like, we can do 62.5. But you didn't, you just say yes because you don't even know, right?
Yeah.
When really other people are getting paid in that same role 70, 75, right?
So they're still getting a deal.
Yeah.
Because they think that you think that you negotiated a raise, but really they're getting a discount on your labor.
Absolutely they are, right? And that's because, you didn't know how to go out and get your market rate. One of my mentors, he told me a great line once. He's like, your biggest asset in life, right? It's not even the land you own and all these different things. It's your ability to earn, your earning potential. What are people willing to pay you for your skill set, right? And so, if you had nothing, right, and you just had your skills and you had to go out into the market and get a job, like what are people willing to pay you, right? I get that, right? It's interesting.
Like that.
Yeah, for sure, right? And it makes you think, right? So if you think of yourself as
earning potential?
What is your earning potential, right?
Man,
super good.
That makes you like kind of think a bit more. It's
course.
like we get wrapped up in these resumes and cover letters and what kind of tie should I wear to my interview.
Yeah.
That's all bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
If you actually think about, if you bring it back to, what do I bring to the table?
Absolutely, right?
All things equal, everything else removed, what do I bring to the table? What are my skills? What are my assets?
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Exactly, right? And so, the way to think of it is like, when you're getting valued, that's your stock price right there, right? Because let's say you're getting paid 60K.
Mm-hmm.
Now a company has literally written you an offer for 75,000. That's how much you're worth. On paper, someone has offered to pay you 75,000. You're not worth any less than that anymore if you sign on, right? So if you can go back to your company, some people use that as a strategy. It's like, oh, I'm getting all these offers, I want to raise. If you haven't done much yet at this company, then, it's not based on merit. You're just trying to take advantage of them, right? So, so coming back to it, so you always want to come in more informed, right? So you can benchmark with people but the cream of the crop is when you can benchmark on multiple sources. People different industries, within the same industry, same size of company, same size of revenue that they're earning. You look on pay scale.
Are you using like Glassdoor, like different?
No, pay scale is decent.
Pay scale?
Pay scale is decent,
okay.
But if you have friends that work in HR or compensation, they're also reliable sources. So I have multiple friends.
Yo, bro, what's your salary?
Literally.
I wonder how that conversation always goes out. No, but if you're close with people, they usually shouldn't mind. But I could see how that could be a touchy subject for whatever reason.
Yeah.
People are really weird about talking about their salary. I've never really understood that, but I think it's because people are paid different and based on different factors and stuff. But
sure.
It's not an easy conversation to have with everybody.
No, you're right. Absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. And people, for some people, it's very private. Like I knew some people where they just wouldn't say their legit salary to their significant other because they felt like
this could change things.
Because they were making more.
Yeah.
It could affect them, right? And so I get that, but in general, like, just as friends, like, my close friends, like, we all share, like, what we're making with each other, and because it's to help each other out, right?
It's never like comparison in a negative way. Yeah,
exactly. In fact, I'll tell my friends, I'll be like, you're getting underpaid. Like, the work you do is way above the level that they're paying, they're paying you for.
Yeah.
You should do something about it, right? And so bring that all back in. So if you must come in, it's all about preparation, right? So they talk about, there's a good book, I'm not going to get into it, Never Split the Difference, right? It talks about negotiation. And, it's all about preparation, right? Like, if you're just trying to come up with all these scenarios in your head of what's going to happen, that's not really ultimately going to lead you. You need to write things down, and you need to, build yourself a little tree.
A little decision tree.
Yeah, exactly. You remember, right?
Yeah,
so,
I remember those.
So, because there's going to take on different levels, right? So, you're trying to come in there with a bunch of salary. You're trying to come there with real facts of everything you did. So if you're good at documenting the type of work you did, if you can put it down on paper, that's perfect because, well, they don't have a track record. In fact, if you're going to be asking for promotion, you better have a track record, right? Like someone better, like somebody who comes in there with all this information and is much better prepared than their manager is ultimately going to get the leverage. They're going to win, right?
Yeah.
So one of the other things they talk about, so, go in there with more information. Go in there with all your tasks and accomplishments that you already had. I'm surprised by how many people miss these two things. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, and like, this is pretty generic, but you have to go through this exercise. Like I did the pitch, that is above and beyond, but I'm like, Like I put a pitch deck, but that is not required if you're trying to get a promotion. So, you should know your next step. You should know what the next role requires. It might even help you to write down the job description just so it's solid. It's like writing notes when you're in university. Write the title of the job you want, write down the job description, read about it, right? And then you're going to know more than your boss about what this job, right?
Yeah.
So the third thing is, and this, if this isn't done, then it's not going to happen. For 3 months, at least for 3 months leading up to this, you should already be doing a little bit, or if not most of what the new role is going to be, right? Because then guess what? Here's the thing. While you've justified your pay, you've justified your responsibilities, the team, right, needs to not even question the fact you're getting a promotion.
They got to trust that you could already do the job.
Exactly, right? So with all those things, you make the decision for them so easy because now, look, again, you're driving your own career. You know more than them. You know what the pay is. You know the responsibilities. You have a plan, but potentially 3 months, 6 months down the road of what the role is going to look like. You're willing to take a trial period if necessary, and you've had a proven track record. And the team is with you, right? Like it's not just your boss because he likes you so much because you guys get along so well from talking about sports or the same beers, that kind of stuff. It's not favoritism. There's a track record, and not only does he believe it, but the management team and your coworkers believe it. And so
powerful stuff, man. I like those practical tips a lot. That's great, man.
Yeah, for sure. I hope the listeners get value out of that.
No, they will for sure, man. Because what you did next was very interesting. Because tell people how
that unfolded,
how it actually unfolded. Because I found it a very interesting story.
Yeah, no. So funny enough, so I put this pitch deck together, and I'm having this meeting with him. We have it for an hour, and he's like, wow, okay, like very well put together. I was just kind of talking to him. He's just like, okay, like I'll just talk to he loved it. Because I was over prepared in some sense. He's like, I'll just talk to the leadership team.
Yep.
I'll get back to you, and we'll go from there, right? He's kind of saying, he's just like, I love this. Like it shows that you're going all in. In fact, he's like, I want to know if you're all in, would you be willing to take double or triple your share options, right? So, a big part of working in startups, it is a risk not just on the employer that they could run out of business, but on the employee because you could be out of a job. Yeah. So one way they incentivize you is stock options, right? If the company blows up like a Shopify did, you're going to be making a lot of money. So he's like, I want to know you're all in. And so, for me, I'm like, okay, I get it. That's cool and all. But realistically, you never know if a startup, like 90% of them fail. So you never know if it's going to get acquired or go public, right? So anyways, besides that fact, he was saying, he's just like, I totally see, you want to become a CFO one day. And, you could be the young tech CFO in the city. I can totally see it. And, I almost felt like he was trying to push me to really be all in on this. And I'm like, okay, cool, I get that. And I'm happy that he sees that. So everything is good, and it's 2 weeks for my 1 year, and this is a month before my 1 year because I just wanted to get the conversation started early, which is something that I will say for the listeners out there, make sure you prepare early because 1 year hits and you're not prepared, like you lost your opportunity. There's only a few times in your life where you get those opportunities to negotiate your next step.
Yeah.
So my my friend Zach, who I was talking about earlier, so his birthday was coming up on the long weekend. And see, this is such a stupid mistake, but it was a good learning lesson. So thing is with I was a we were 2 people operations team.
Yeah.
So me, Mark, who's the director of strategy and operations, and then Alain, our chief operating officer. So we were 3 on this team. And mostly Mark and I, as Alain was doing other stuff, as a co-founder and doing other parts of the business. So Mark and I were really the team on building up everything operations-wise internally. And so Zach's birthday weekend is coming up, and he really wanted to go out and do something big that he never did before. I didn't know what it was yet, but then 3 days before his birthday, so 3 days before the long weekend, he's like, okay, I want to do Vegas. And I'm like, okay. And then he's like, I'm buying tickets. I'm going to buy tickets tonight if you guys let me know. So we didn't get back because I'm like, all right, what do I even got to even do? How do I even bring this up? Like we're coming on like the quarter end, or I need to report a bunch of quarter end stuff. It was July, I remember. And if it doesn't get done, and I just need to get it done, right? So that Friday, I think it was like August 1st or something. I forget the date, but that aside, I was like, okay, I don't know yet, but I'll let you know. So now it's the day before flying. Literally, not even like less than 12 hours, he books the flight and he books it. I'm like, oh my God, I haven't even told my boss, nothing. So to me, I'm like, okay, again, we're a small team, like my own department, and we, like we get our work done. Like we get our work done no matter what. Like, we're fast with our emails and everything, and we make sure we're aligned, except this one time. So, I was like, okay, so you know what? I'm just gonna work remotely. I'll just tell him, hey, I'm working remotely on Friday, and he's like, okay, cool, whatever. So Thursday and Friday. So Thursday we fly out. Thursday night we get there. Friday, exactly like I said. So Thursday I'm working on the airplane at the airport and stuff. Nobody knows I'm in Vegas except my friends.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where it comes crashing, because then Friday I do my work. I get all these investor reports done. I answered if they need anything else. Like I did everything I could to be like, okay, whoosh, I can go out.
Yeah.
And then obviously I'm like taking pictures and my friends see. And I saw my coworkers on Instagram, but just like weekend in Vegas, but I just didn't say anything. So I come back and I'm like, okay, Mark, I'm meeting with Mark at the time. Alain wasn't there. Mark, I didn't tell you this, but there was a last minute trip booked to Vegas literally the night before, Thursday, and I was working there from the weekend, but I got everything done as you needed. I just didn't tell you. And he's like, yeah, I was going to talk to you about that. He's like, that's okay. No worries. You know what? You should tell Alain. So I tell Alain, and he laughs. He's like, you went to Vegas? What did you do? Actually, I don't even want to know. And I'm like, okay, all right, whatever. This is good. But I think Mark and Alain spoke later, and he kind of internalized, after taking a step back, how it looks, right? And so the same day, that I'm back, he books, comes after lunch. He's like, hey, can I see you for a couple minutes in the boardroom? So I go and talk to him, and he's like, look, half the world probably would have fired you for what you did. The other half will be willing to take a lesson. I'm like, what the hell? What the fuck is this? Because this is the summer. I've I automated so much of a job. I did this whole thing.
You grinded and you prepared a deck and you're all ready to go. Things are looking good
for sure. He's like, he wants to know what's happening Q1 2019. I got the plan. I have all the projects. I have all these different things, these ideas, right? All that is done. But this one action, it was, he's like, I'm gonna use this as a learning lesson. If you had told me Thursday night, if you'd left me a message and said, my friend booked a last minute trip to Vegas, I don't know what to do because I can't back out as he paid for it, but I can get all the work done. He would have been like, okay, I get it. It was out of your control in some sense, right? Because he didn't actually get your confirmation before booking it. Mm-hmm. So he's like, but you didn't, and to me, that hurts my trust, because I would expect you to tell me that. We're all human here, and you could have just told me that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, you're right. I totally get it, and I'm sorry. And and he's like, I'm okay with it because I know how hard you work, but it doesn't look great to the company that the optics, exactly, right? It's the optics. It's like a lot of people here probably know you went to Vegas, and if you get promoted, it's like, what does that look like on me, right? So I was like,
yeah, man. I mean, from the outside looking in, people might hear that and think, bro, what's the big deal? He just went to Vegas. It's not that big of a deal.
No, for sure, right?
What if he took a sick day and did that or some bullshit? But here's the thing. It's like, I don't know. You're such a hard worker. You're grinding. You're doing all this. To me, it doesn't even seem like that big of a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, whatever. Who really cares? But when you put it in those words like, yo, it's a trust thing.
Yes.
How's it going to look if we give you a fat promotion and then everyone else in the office is going to think I can act that way and
entitled
and get a promotion?
Right? Yeah.
So it almost creates like an issue for them. The last thing they want is issues. And that what you're all about is creating less issues for the people that you work with. So that's crazy, man. That's a great story to me. And that's why I'm glad we talked about that.
Yeah.
That's a great learning lesson, man.
No, for sure, right? And it's just like, and so I'll give one big advice, for people who are managing And even the people who have managers, you really should strive to get a relationship where you and your manager have psychological safety. Okay, that's really the important thing. I didn't even realize this, but like the managers that I really appreciated, they were able to create an environment. Like I did appreciate Alan, of course. I just didn't I just didn't take that step to be upfront and be like, I booked the trip, it's out of my control, right? Because I just didn't know, and I'm like, I'm just gonna get my work done.
Yeah.
Regardless, like if an emergency comes up, you should always bring it up to your manager. That's the lesson. But psychological safety is so important with your manager, right? Because that's how you can be like, I'm not motivated by this work. I'm having an off day, or I want to do something more. I want to get involved here, right? Opening up takes a lot of courage with the manager. We're young people, and it's in our nature to try and please people when we first start a job and we want to move up in our career. We say yes to everything, right? Because that's just how it is. So when they create an environment of psychological safety, it's much easier to navigate.
Right, man. I want to talk a little bit about some of the books you've read and some of the knowledge that you've gained, because you have a pretty big collection of books that you have read and you've gained tremendous value from. Yeah. And then I want to get into your morning routine a bit.
Sure. Yeah. That sounds great. The Hard Thing About Hard Things. Fantastic book about entrepreneurship. Highly recommend. Just paints a real picture of what it was like for Ben Horowitz, who was working in tech and had launched his own business, and then he became a venture capitalist. So from an entrepreneur turned VC, it really painted a picture of tough times. Like his wife was in the hospital the day when he had to go to an IPO roadshow. Like just situations most people would never talk about. And so one of the cool things, like there's so many different stories in that book and different situations. One of the things I like that he talks about, he's like, the best executives out there's 4 things that they're able to do. So they are great innovators. They know how to bring things to the next step. They can visualize what's going to be happening, and they know how to bring people to buy into their ideas. Another one is that they are excellent communicators. They're always in touch with people. They are always giving people the information necessary. They're always letting people know what's going on, and they're good at keeping people in the loop. And that's important because that way everybody's aligned. Then they're excellent people managers, right? And so I was talking about one of the good lessons I got from The Hard Thing About Hard Things, right? So first one for being an excellent executive is they're innovative. The second one is that they have great communication skills. Yep. And and people management is the third one. These sound generic, but it's at its core, this is what he believed made a great executive. So people management is really what you're doing more and more as you move up in your career, right?
Yeah, man. You're less dealing with the actual operational day-to-day kind of thing. You delegate that out, and you have teams and things are being managed. But now you're thinking more people, strategy, long-term vision. How can we align that with the company's vision and meet our organizational goals? But what people don't realize is like all this jargon, all these words, like all it's talking about at the end of the day, like what is a company? It's a collection of people. Yeah. What is an organization? What is anything? Exactly. It's just people operating it at the end of the day, right? Yeah. So the better understanding you have of people, like here's a little tangent I'm going to go off on, but like I think it's kind of crazy how we harp so much on CEO pay or COO or like executive pay in general, right? People really like to focus on, the CEO made this much money, whereas like look how much the worker's getting paid. But what they don't understand is like the value that these CEOs and decision makers are actually bringing to the table. Very good point. These people are you might look at like $1 figure of how much they're making in a year or whatever. That pales in comparison to how much value they're bringing their company in terms of steering a ship. Absolutely. Like that means this could mean someone who's 10% better could mean billions of dollars of more profit, or someone 10% worse could
lose money,
steer a company into oblivion. It's so it's important. Like I'd like to say that because I think that it's not only just CEOs, obviously,
No,
right?
for sure,
But
right? There's
executives in
leaders. Yeah,
general,
yeah,
the
yeah.
senior management team and stuff like that. Like it's important for them to be
Emotionally
compensated
intelligent.
well
Yeah.
and emotionally intelligent and all that, man. But
Yeah.
please continue.
Yeah, no, for sure, right? Like they definitely deserve their pay, right? Like the best ones out there, 100%. A lot of people don't see some of the fires that they're putting out behind the scenes, right? So, again, like they sound generic, but you when you look into deeper examples, that is really at the core what they do. Like I was saying, communicating, right? Like I remember something like, okay, just think about like they're very good at writing emails, they're very good at putting together reports, they're very good at speaking with people, right? People management side is really their team. Like they know how to structure a team. They know how to put together a machine to get things done, right? Because they're not the one writing the blog post. They're not the one paying this bill. They're not the one putting the code in. They're the ones putting all the people in place to make that work happen and then keep it running lean, fill in the gaps, right? The fourth one is that they're results driven, right? And so at the end of the day, if you're innovative, you have great communication skills, you're very good at managing people, if you can't drive results at the end of the day, every company runs on corporate objectives, then you're missing a huge piece of being an executive, right? Like you're not, while great executives don't take the credit for those results, their team makes them look good. And in fact, they're the ones that are saying all these good things about their team, right?
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things. One of the other cool things in that book they talked about, and I don't know how far companies will go to try this out, but it's called the Freaky Friday management technique. Okay. So this one time in his company, his VP of sales and his VP of engineering, like there was just a period where they just did not get along, and they were always blaming each other, pointing fingers. And he decided they don't have an idea of what each other does. They don't have an idea of what it's like. And so hence the name Freaky Friday. For 1 week, he made them switch roles. No context. On Monday, from Monday to Friday, you're the VP sales, and from Monday to Friday, you're the VP engineering. Completely switch lives.
Yeah.
Right?
And they're like opposites.
Completely opposite, right?
Yeah.
He's not even talking to customers, and he's talking with developers. He doesn't understand the code. He doesn't he's literally having to ask. He has to rely on being able to ask the right questions, figure things out quickly. Wait, what's our priorities? Like, let's have a team meeting quickly. But code needs to be pushed out. We need to deploy, so everybody needs to be focused. And the VP sales, who the VP engineering, who was the VP sales for the week, had no customer empathy. He wasn't really understanding from a customer standpoint what they were facing. So, these arguments that they're having is based on what we should build next, why this should be a priority, this shouldn't be a priority. And they just couldn't align because they just didn't understand each other's world, right?
Yeah.
So then, after the week, like they were really tired and they really wanted to get back to their old jobs, but they had much more empathy. They could come together. They could align for the work.
Well, they put each other in each other's shoes.
Yeah.
Like, now you can, like, it's literal. Like, I can see now, okay, I get it. You got these targets.
Yeah.
You can't meet these targets unless we deliver this in this time. And then,
boom.
Okay, we could probably do a better job of dealing with these bugs, or we could do a better job of communicating it to you that this is the lead time. Like,
exactly.
This stuff's interesting, man.
Yeah, for sure, right? It's just like, it's a cool thing, but you might, again, companies might not think of doing that, right? Like, can you afford to do that for a week?
I don't know.
But it's like, if you afford it, if you do that for a week and you get you get your ultimate return back for the weeks to come afterwards because they work.
Yeah, man. No, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say. And then one more thing out of the book that I will mention that I really liked was the difference between a wartime CEO and a peacetime CEO. So when things are going very well, you're on track for growth. You're just trying to hire great people, build culture, align people, get the product out, all these different things. When business is going good, it's a peacetime CEO. Wartime CEOs, right? This is different. This is a different ball game, right?
Yeah.
Companies starting to crash, and they went to a point where they almost ran out of cash. And I love this part of the story where, he had to turn from peacetime CEO to wartime CEO because when things are going good, things are going good, and everybody's coming in, whatever. And wartime CEO, they're almost out of cash. They can't even raise money without having the next version of their product out. He had to go in front of the company and be like, and this is cool because. He said people who lie to their businesses are losers, right? Like, because there's nightmare stories out there of startups, where employees thought the company had money and then 2 weeks later they're out of a job, right? Like there's just stories like that where there weren't transparent leadership. So he was talking about how this pivotal point in the company, he had gathered everyone together and he's like, hey everyone, I want you to know the state of our business. We're expecting to run out of cash in a couple of months. And we can't get money unless we get this new product out. I want you to go home and tell your spouses that you're gonna have to work a little bit longer every night. Tell your kids, if we get this done, we can get a lot more money. We can put ourselves in a place where we have even more financial freedom, and turn this something big. And
He was transparent.
He was transparent, and they worked very hard. And of course, the company achieved its goals after that.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's cool because, I'm not getting the nitty gritty, but they very well lay out, like, if you are a leader, of a company or a team where everything is great and just cruising, this is typically how to navigate that. And when everything is going to shit, this is how you navigate that.
That has very a lot of parallels to real life too, man. Because there's so many situations in life where things are going all fine and you can navigate, you can make things work when things are going fine. But if things go to shit, you meet people who can't handle that.
And manage crisis, exactly, right?
Manage any kind of adversity, anything.
Yeah.
Everything is, oh, woe is me, like this is the worst thing happening. There's a lot of parallels because at the end of the day, it's people.
Exactly.
So understanding people, probably one of the most valuable skills, man.
Absolutely.
That's a great book, man. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And, I know you have a massive arsenal, and I wanted to switch gears a little bit, but still kind of on the same theme because you also talk about a point in your life, with your new job, where, your new place where you're working, where you had woken up at 4 a.m., 5 a.m. every day, get a workout done, read a book, get your mind right, then go to work, crush it.
Yeah.
That is fucking powerful to me. And I want to talk about that because I think a lot of people want to do something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of people talk about, oh yeah, I'd love to work out in the morning. I'm one of those people.
Yeah.
Would love to do it.
Yeah.
And practice it a little bit harder. Talk to us about that period. How'd you navigate that? How'd you do that? And what are the effects it had on you?
For sure. I'm going to say being underestimated is one of the best things that could happen to someone. It will drive them to go harder than they ever have. So, I'll just to give the context of how I came to this point was, my parents had bought a house in Ottawa, and I said, I'll move in back with them and help around the house. And this is the period where, coming off what I was talking about earlier, I pushed my promotion, and they said, we're going to put you on a 3-month trial, right? So I was livid. I was I deserve this and whatever. But I'm you know what? 3 months, that's fair. So I'm I'm going to work harder than I ever have these 3 months. I'm pushing myself to the absolute limit. So because I was part of me was are they underestimating me? And then the other thing was I know if they thought what I could do, these past few months was good, what I bring now. So, so I started getting up. I was doing it with a friend. This is much easier because you keep each other accountable. So he had to go into work for 7 a.m. I didn't have to go into work until anytime between 8:30 and 9:30. It's pretty flexible at a startup. But I was you know what? All right, I'll join you. Screw this, because I hate the traffic that from Orleans already. A weekend, so couldn't bear it. So get up 4:45. 4:30, 4:45, grab my stuff, immediately head to the gym.
And this means you packed your stuff up the night before.
Yeah. Everything's ready to go. I just get up. I'm already in an outfit that I can just go to the gym with, and then I'm out. So I get there. I work out for about an hour. We were doing separate things, right? We're just going about it. I hang out with him at the hot tub. We go to the steam room or the sauna. And the thing is he's a good friend of mine, and we would just pump each other up for the day. You don't realize it until after, but we're sharing things where we've learned constantly. He's telling me about an entrepreneurial project he was working on. I was telling him about a book I was reading. So really, in our own heads, we're bringing that more and more into reality and applying it because we're having to tell each other, right?
That's so powerful, man.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't have friends that are gonna fucking drag you 4:45 in the morning to the gym.
Yeah.
Start sharing things and positivity and start your day on the right note, man. That's powerful.
It is. It was a great tool because I couldn't let him down. He couldn't let me down. And it'd be 4:45, my alarm went off, and I'm okay, I'm going back. 4:55, he texts me. He's just on my way. I'm oh, okay, I'm getting up. I'm like, I'll be a little late, but I'm up. I'm on my way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it helps. It works, right? One of my friends, he's doing he's doing a bet. If he doesn't work out 3 times a week and he has to record it, then he has to give the other person $50.
Nice.
Right? And then that's just like,
Talk about accountability.
Accountability, right? If that's not going to make you work out, I don't know what is, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to be out of money, right? So, so I go to the gym, and the thing is I only realized this after, but I was just trying to keep in shape and just trying to start the day off, with some exercise and get that out of the day.
And you've definitely been influenced by some of the things you've read and some of the people that you've learned from. And I know you like to study successful people and some of their habits and stuff. And a very common parallel is that a lot of them work out first thing in the morning.
Yeah, 100%. And it's because it clears your head, right? Like your body is fully awake. It's stimulated. And so the thing is...
I don't know about fully awake, bro. 5 a.m., I'm pretty fucking...
Yeah, I know. But after you exercise,
After
you push yourself easily. Yeah, no, 100%. There's some days I was just like, screw this, right? Why did I ever sign up for this? Of course.
No, but that's awesome, man.
Yeah. So the thing is like, we... between starting at the gym and then doing our whole routine... I'm out by 6:45, 7 a.m., okay? Because he's off to work now. Yeah. So 7 a.m., and now I'm like, okay, I'm going to just read a book. So at that point, like I would do an hour reading in the morning and just take my own time because I knew I had a decent amount of time in the morning. So what that did for me is I was mentally stimulated. I was there because I've been reading about this thing. I'm super in the zone. It's very quiet.
Yeah.
I'm like writing notes if I need to. And I always have these takeaways afterwards because I finished. By that amount of time, you finish at least a chapter or 2, right? It's a decent amount of time. So, like some people, it's like I like to do 50 minutes of reading, but I get too into it to want to stop at that point. So, 8:15, 8 o'clock, 8:15. I'm like, okay, well, okay, I got all my stuff. I read a lot. I'm satisfied with reading. Then I head over to work, like 8:15, 8:30. So I did that 4 or 5 times a week. And the thing is, when I went to work, here's the thing. I felt like I was doing 12, 13-hours of work in 8, 9 hours. Like, I was just absolutely crushing it. I go in super focused because I'm, like, physically awake. I've already read. And, I have no, like, I'm not groggy or anything. Like, I'm just there and just boom, 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 like, getting stuff done. And it was, like, week after week getting things done. So my manager and I, so Alain had been focusing on other stuff. So Mark had formerly become my manager at the time at Farmlead. He was my director of strategy and operations, and we set up this tool called 15 and 5. So it's pretty cool, and I'll tell you about it. So 15 and 5, it's a feedback management tool between an employee and manager to have effective one-on-ones. So you spend 15 minutes answering 5 questions. Or 15 minutes reading it and then 50 minutes writing and then 5 minutes explaining it. So there's different ways to interpret it. If anybody out there looks it up, like you'll see what I'm talking about. Yeah. So the ones that we stuck to, and here's the thing, I didn't realize, but afterwards it became like an archive of wisdom and knowledge because you're answering these. So every single week on Friday, 3:30, we would sit down together and we would answer these 5 questions. So we'd write our accomplishments for the week, straight bullets, like what worked, what didn't, what did you get done, what are you proud of, priorities for next week. So we always knew what we did in the week. We always knew what we were doing next week. Challenges and roadblocks that the other person can help me with. So I need approval on this or whatever, right? And then the next one was opportunities, lessons learned. Yeah. Opportunities for improvement. It's a subsection, like different things. So lessons learned, opportunities for improvement, and questions to solve. And so, in my lessons learned, I was writing like all these, like I was reading these books. I write quotes down. I would write different articles I was reading. So I was just documenting a lot of my learning and, just naturally because I wanted to talk to him about it. And then areas for improvement, just, that was like, I had to sit back, personally reflect. I'm like, my time management wasn't good this week. I get so in the day-to-day, I forget about what the big picture is. I forget if this is actually helping contribute to our corporate objectives. I could have communicated this better, so you just have to really be introspective.
It's a lot of self-awareness required to do that. Quick sub-question.
Yeah.
Do you write these takeaways, these notes on physical paper, on your phone?
Good point, yeah.
How do you go about it?
Yeah. So what I did was we set up a rolling document. So what I mean by that is we just put the template at the first page,
Yeah.
and then we just copy and paste it
That's
and then refill
great.
it out.
So-
So in fact, like I have almost a year's worth of this now.
And that was the next thing that I was gonna say is now
Yeah.
not only are you getting a lot from having to think like this and communicate this, but now you have ammo for your performance review.
Yeah.
If you forget what you did, you literally can go back and
Yeah.
be like, "This is what I did."
Exactly.
And I had something similar with a manager of mine, and we would meet every Friday and
Yeah.
do a bilateral meeting. It was a little less structured than
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
It was just more like going through the priorities and shifting things around and
Yeah, yeah.
what do you need help with. It was a lot less formal than that, but it's such a powerful tool because you start to go back and you see week by week improvement and crossing things off and getting things done. And
Right.
this one has been nagging at me for a while.
Yeah.
That's a powerful tool, man.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
think a lot of people can get a lot from that in their career because it ties back to what you said is you're in the driver's seat of your own career. You need
get
to
it.
take charge yourself of what's going on. And yes, you have mentors. Yes, you have people along the way who are going to help you out. But if you had told a manager or something, don't want to do this, not interested, think of how worse off you'd be.
Yeah. Right? Absolutely.
And it doesn't take that much time. It takes a lot of mental energy because you actually have to think and you actually have to do an audit of what you've done, what you could do better,
Of course.
and how you could be better. But it also leaks into your personal life. How can I be better with my family? How can I be better with my relationships, with my friends? These kinds of things that are going on like that require your attention and energy.
Yeah. No, it's
Requires
crazy.
you to go back and take a little bit of an audit. I like that a lot, man.
Of course, man. No, and you know what they say is some of these. So Bill Gates goes on thinking vacations where he'll just unplug and reflect on all the things he did. He'll try and read and stuff, and just a lot of the books that I've read, some of these bigger executives, some of them like they'll have it scheduled like Sunday after dinner with their family, 7 to 9 p.m. They're in a room and they will not take a call, text message, anything from anyone unless
Love
it's their
that.
spouse. And they will literally just write down either on their computer, on a blank sheet, just, again, this type of format where they just purely go I call it the artist writing, where they just free flow write about all these different thoughts that are going in their head and kind of criticize themselves, but then also reassure themselves where they're doing good and then encourage themselves what they're, what they should be working on and stuff, right?
I love that.
And just think about it, like, again, like how often you get better at being introspective as you get older by maturity, but how often are you doing that? Like we're also busy between family, friends, work, our side hustles, whatever, right? So, for me, sometimes it's because I have 20 minutes in the steam room in the morning that I can actually just think and be like, what am I doing?
Yep.
Oh yeah, no, things are good midweek.
That's meditation, by the way.
Yeah, that's true. That is meditation. Yeah, in some way.
I mean, don't apologize because a lot of people don't realize that meditation, you don't have to be sitting cross-legged and chanting Om or something like that. Literally, meditation can just be being hyper aware of your thoughts and
Surroundings
and everything that's going on in your brain as it happens. Almost taking a step out of your body and realizing like what's going on, how you feel about certain things, and how external things are affecting your current mind state, stuff like that. I find that very interesting, man. Even 20 minutes in the sauna, even like that little time, that's meditation, man.
You've been doing it, right?
I've been trying to do as much as I can of the sauna. I try to do it like 2-3 times a week. It's kind of like a reset for me.
Of course.
But I've been meditating. I have been. I do that like not as much as I'd like to, maybe once or twice a week. I use this app, Sam Harris. I don't know if you're familiar with Sam Harris. A neuroscientist. He's a very popular guy and on many podcasts and stuff. But he has his own app called Waking Up. It's so cheesy, the name of that. But pretty much it literally like he tells you what to do in the app. Because I've never been good at just sitting still and doing nothing. Because meditation's like the art of doing nothing. Slowing your mind down to the point where a thought will come in, you'll recognize that thought, but you're not going to let that thought dictate how you feel about something.
You're aware of it, but you're not letting it control you.
Exactly, that kind of thing. So
exactly.
it gets pretty deep, and you know, it's not that deep. But, had to do it.
Had to do it.
But no, it's really important to, you know, even if, let's take the word meditation out of it for a second, and just being self-aware,
self-reflection.
being able to be calm and be alone with yourself and just think.
Yeah.
Stare at a wall and just fucking think.
Yeah,
I think it's important. I think it's something that's missing. I think a lot of people could benefit from it, but there's so many things fighting for our attention at all times. Whether it's our phones, whether it's a television, iPad, your laundry machine, everything needs you to be there right now and deal with it. But yo, man, as much as like all this technology, all these advancements is very amazing, sometimes you gotta unplug and just chill and just see how you feel.
You get it. Do you
Check
ever
in with yourself.
Do you ever just go? Have you just gone for walks?
I do it almost every night.
Yeah.
Almost,
yes. Okay.
Almost every night I go around this neighborhood and just walk.
Nothing, and you just go, right?
I'd be lying if I said nothing. I listen to podcasts. That's my podcast time, because I don't have the time to listen to podcasts anymore.
Right. Because you make one.
I'm making one. But that's when I would go around and listen to podcasts. And remember that one I was telling you about Farnham Street?
Yeah. Fantastic.
That's a big one for me, because I get to learn about mental models. I get to learn about like different, different like tech investors, people in software, people in parenting, communication, all kinds of different fields. I find it super interesting.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
That one, I used to listen to the Joe Rogan podcast a lot. I just don't have time anymore to listen to them. There's just too many.
Oh, come on. You don't have 10 hours in a day to listen to 3 episodes?
Man, you know, I try. Yo, maybe if I just booked like a month off and just only listen to Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan
podcast.
vacation.
But I want to bring it back to your morning routine a little bit, because like just finishing that up, because I find it very interesting that you were able to do that for so long. You might not go as extreme as you did at that time, but you still have a very interesting morning routine. And I learned something in a podcast with Jay Shetty. I don't know if you're familiar.
No.
With him, he's that brown dude with like the super green eyes. Okay. He's on like Gary V videos sometimes and stuff.
Okay, I'll check him
super
out.
Interesting guy. I think he was like once a monk. Like he went from having like a lot of money going to be a monk, and then forget this, like I'm just gonna go teach people how to be happy and enlightened, that kind. Anyways, he has this podcast and he was talking about how you can actually have a successful habit in the morning and build better habits for the morning. And one of the most powerful things he said, and you implemented this in your life, is waking up 2 to 3 hours before your first obligation in the morning.
Wow. Yeah.
So everyone I know, and I'm this way, if I got work at 8 a.m., I'm gonna wake up the latest I possibly can to get there for 8:15. You know, so like a lot of people I know operate with this mentality. You know, like I'm gonna be up for a certain amount of time at night every day, doing God knows what on my phone, watching TV, just dumb shit going out, whatever. But
guilty, been there, but you too.
I'm not gonna wake up at 5 a.m. to go work out.
Yeah, well, madness.
But that ties into what you've done, and I want to talk about some of the sacrifices you've had to make to be able to do that.
Right.
So what's your evening look like then?
Yeah, good point.
Because me, I'm tired at like 10 p.m. and I start work at like 7.
Yeah.
But I'm dead by like 10 p.m.
Yeah.
You woke up at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
What were your evenings like?
Yeah,
what did you have to sacrifice? What did you have to cut out?
It's true. No. I'm going to say one thing. If this will help you or the listeners out there, in terms of waking up in the morning, my friend told me this actually. How you start your morning is indicative of how your day is going to go. So if you snooze your alarm, well, then you're being lazy with your day. It's probably going to be a lazier day. And that changed me. I was like, I wake up and I think that I'm like, no, I'm conquering the day. So screw it. I'm getting up. So
just get up.
Yeah.
Be up.
Yeah.
Man, a lot of successful people say that, like, and Navy SEALs, and people who are like hardcore as fuck.
Yeah.
Just get up.
Yeah, for sure. No, for sure, right? And I'm going to talk about evening, but like the whole thing is like, there's so much motivation, inspirational stuff. I'm more of a practical guy, and you are too.
Yeah.
So if you're just listening to it, but you're not putting it in practice, or you're giving yourself principles to run off of, then what is it for? You're not getting as better, right? So, coming to my evening routine. So I'd work from like 8:15. I'd probably get out of the office by 5:30 or 6. I go home because I already finished. I didn't work out or anything. I already worked out in the morning, so I go home, and believe it or not, I do more work. So I'm like, okay, what do I have tomorrow? Like, what do I have meetings? Okay, I'm gonna prep for my meetings, right? Like a little tip out there: you should never run a meeting or go into a meeting with someone without an agenda, even if it's for yourself. Like you should just always go in there prepared and have talking points, right? And guess what? If it's a half an hour meeting but it takes 5 minutes, I had one today. I'm like, okay, we're done. That's it. You save both each other's time. So
I love that, man.
Run efficiently, right? So you have to make that time. So my evenings was literally spent. Okay, what meetings do I have tomorrow? I can make like notes for each one quickly.
You're a beast, man. This guy's working when he's not working.
But the thing is also you do need an outlet. I'm gonna say so I had that, but like, I like going to the movies, so I would always message Jeremy, my buddy Jeremy, and be like, yo, you want to watch a movie Tuesday night? Like we just always go. I was finding time to try.
You cheap bastard.
Yeah. Well, for him, he's still yeah.
Me too.
Okay. You only got me too.
Tuesday's the night to go.
Like I'm saying, still have some seed points left. Almost done.
I'm dead. I love
redeeming
that.
them. Yeah, no. So evenings, it was trying to prepare for the next day, but I would also. I'm an extroverted guy, like very extroverted. I need to be with people. So you need to be. Here's the thing. You want to be hanging around people that you believe will be able to get you where you want to go in 5 years.
Bring out the best in you.
Right? They bring out the best in you. They bring you up, right? And so personally and professionally, right? Like I read this, one of the like, I forget which executive, but he was like, oh, one of my mentors was just a guy who was just a very good husband to his wife, and he was a very good family man. And he was like he had a respectable career, but he looked at him as like, wow, like you're so good at managing everything at home kind of thing. So, it could be across all things that bring the best out of you.
It doesn't have to be some billionaire.
Yeah.
Like, to anyone listening, like a mentor
Yeah.
can be anyone who you look up to. And a lot of the
Yes,
time,
exactly.
a mentor will seek you out, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, you actually bring up a great point.
Yeah.
Like that's, just quickly aside. Yeah, like, a lot of my mentor relationships and yours as well,
Yeah.
right? Like the ones that mentored us.
Yeah.
They got value out of it. They wanted to continue mentoring us.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Because not only do they learn from us as well, because it's a two-way street.
Yeah.
It's a two-way relationship, but they become better leaders.
Yes, of course, right? The
win-win.
coaching, right? So my evenings were typically looking at that, but I needed to be around people, and the thing is like when I was going through this grind phase, leading up to my promotion, I always made sure I was just consistently around like people I wanted to be around, smart people, close friends. And refueling myself. So I'd make sure I'm ready for the next day, always. Yeah. I'll do some reading if I need to, but I was just spending my evenings with people. But
the
like
best part is you got your gym done already.
Yeah, it opened up the evening.
It's
exactly.
not a nagging thing that
for sure.
Go to the gym.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
No,
man.
for sure.
Sorry, continue what you were saying.
No, I was just gonna say, but the big thing was, they say, like, it's not about how long you work. Like, guys working at 10 hours in the office, but it's about how much you get done in that period. So that's the thing. Even though I came in at 8:15, whatever, and maybe I left by 5:36, but I was crushing like 12 hours, 13 hours worth of work. And I knew it because I was giving myself estimates of like how long it took to get done. Sometimes I didn't, but when I did, I was like, okay, holy crap, I'm done a bunch of stuff. I'll start tomorrow's task. But
being busy versus being productive.
Yeah.
What's your favorite productivity tool?
My favorite productivity tool. And
do you use OneNote? Do you use Evernote? Are you using notes on your iPhone?
Yeah.
Are you writing on paper?
Yeah.
I know you kind of already touched on it with that document, but in general,
for sure.
What's keeping you track? I know one of them is a calendar.
Yeah, of course. Literally, this podcast is on my calendar. That's the thing. I live by my calendar. If I'm going to see someone for even 20 minutes, I'll put it in my calendar.
Yeah.
But, for sure. But two things. So, this is an interesting point. Writing with your hand and typing out uses different parts of your brain. So a lot of the times, like if I need to really expand on my creativity and need a blank canvas, I'm going to write and I'm going to free flow my writing, whatever. And then other times I'm writing notes because I need it very structured and, able to be
And a
descriptive
lot
in
more
the process.
content.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly, right? So, productivity wise, like, yeah, like my notes, I've started using Evernote's because another tip out there for folks listening, Evernote's free, and, it goes a step above notes because you can tag stuff, right? So, for example, now I'm on the web, I read this cool thing from an article, I'm going to be like, okay, articles, and then I can put a subtag like finance, whatever,
Business,
right? Yeah.
cool.
I see a cool advertisement billboard. I mean, I'm not in marketing, but I just like keeping track of stuff, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'll be like, okay, classify, tag that as ad. If I listen to something on a podcast, I'll be like, and I want to record a podcast quote, right? So I do these specific tags now because at the end of the day, like when you're trying to find inspiration, when you're stuck, right? Like there's different things you can do. Go. If you have books, maybe look it for reference. Go into your notes. To go for a walk, right?
Yeah.
Talk with someone. Like when you're having writer's block, writer's block doesn't just apply to writers, but just in general, when you're stuck somewhere, you need different things that you can go into.
Yeah.
So they call this a swipe file,
Okay.
right? Because you just put everything in there and you all your notes and you centralize it, right? And
Then you categorize it.
yeah,
later.
yeah. So I do that to formally keep documentation of everything I'm learning. Like again, like things I'm learning in books. Like I write everything down because then how are you going to remember what it's all for, right?
Yeah.
So, but then other things like if I'm trying to model out something, or if I find this really good. If I really need to think back and be high level and try and rationalize what I'm about to do, or I need to put a process down together, writing it by hand just helps me because again, like think about just you on your to-do lists and you know what I mean, like you could do a to-do list on a notes file, or you could do it on paper,
On
but
the back of a napkin.
yeah, back on a napkin. But anyway, it's just mentally, right? Like it's a generic tip, but mentally out there, you're pushing yourself to keep crossing it off your list, right?
Well, that's if you go back to it.
Yeah, if you go back to
a
it.
big problem with me is, and I'm a big proponent of writing and going down on paper, is I have like 7 notebooks going.
Okay.
And like one of them I'll write a to-do list in, and then the other one I'm writing some ideas, and then I'll cross off a couple things on the to-do list, and the other things I get them done because you know me, I just get shit done.
Yeah. No, of course.
But
Yeah, you do.
But I won't go back and I cross the things off that list. I might see it 6 months from now. Like, yeah, I guess I got all those things done.
Yeah.
But no, it's very powerful.
You know what? I will say, so I in my notebook, I don't put to-dos at all. Because the thing is I look at that as an archive. I look at that as documentation of things I've learned, things I've tried to model out, ideas I've had. And so I go through it. Like the thing is, as soon as you use it for a to-do list or something like that, you've taken the integrity out of it being something you'd stick in. I want to put in my bookshelf. I have 2 like journals right now that I've completed that are almost like it gets written formally in some sense. It's all dated. It all has titles.
Yeah.
Even it's just like ideas I had for a business, and I'll just kind of like really lay it out like that because I treat it like that. I'm not writing it on a document, but I'm like, while I have my book out and my journal, I'm just doing it. And the thing is so I never put the to-do list because I could use printer paper, like you said, napkin for my to-do list, whatever, done, done. Okay. But if you treat your journal like a formal document,
like that, man.
and that you come back to, that you keep scribing things on, and that you want to, again, my motivation was like, I want to have this on my shelf because I want to come back and see how I was thinking. And I've gone back. I'm like, holy crap, this is how I used to think of organizational design. This is how I used to think of, pricing. This is how I used to think of different, even personal stuff. This is how I used to think of like a good routine. Or I was listening to Tim Ferriss this time, where I was listening to
Love Tim Ferriss.
Yeah, Tim Ferriss is great. Like I was just doing.
Can't wait to have him on the podcast.
Yeah, man, soon, eh? Yeah.
One day.
Bro, I'll put out that Patreon dollars. Get him on you. But yeah, no. So the thing is like. It's great because again, we talk about this 15 and 5 tool, this document that you can go back to, but writing is going to last you like your whole life. And I just realized after like listening to different people and doing it myself in practice, like I really want to be able to go, because you never know, you might have a golden idea and you're like, I can't remember. I whiteboarded something, you know what I mean? But I can't remember. And like luckily for me, I've been able to put those things in my notebook. But yeah, so that's how I go about it. So
I love that, man. Great answer. Fantastic method of dealing with that. Bro, we're already over an hour and 20 minutes, if you can believe it.
Holy crap, no.
Yeah. We've gotten into it. I love it.
Wow. Just flew by.
We will have to wrap it up soon.
Yeah,
but I
that's
know
okay.
you and me could talk for hours. We could talk for hours about
course,
this
man.
stuff. I want to talk a little bit. Last point, kind of really. Going from farm lead now to your current role.
Yeah.
Talk to us about how that kind of came about.
Yeah.
How you're enjoying your position
Mhm.
now,
Mhm.
and finally, like a sub question, what's your future?
Right.
What do you think? Because I know you think about this
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
What do you think the next year, 5
Yeah.
years looks like?
Wow, that's a fantastic way to bring it back full circle.
Let's
I got to
do
give
it.
it to you. So, going from Farmlead to Rewind, I didn't even get to talk about it as much as I thought, but Farmlead had gone through an unfortunate situation where they only had a few months of runway left. Runway meaning cash to operate, and they were pivoting to a new strategy. So, when you have investors, you're under a level of scrutiny in their eyes to get things done that you promised, right? And so for them, they didn't hit the targets that they wanted. They wanted to get more money from the investors to put into somewhere else, and the investors came back and said, okay, well, if you're building a completely new product, you don't need a sales team, you don't need a marketing team, you don't need over half your team. And so there were layoffs. I didn't get laid off. I was helping my boss execute it when I found out, because he was gonna put everything together post layoffs, and I had to make sure everything was kind of from an administrative standpoint taken care of. So as soon as the post layoffs came around, we were 11 people. I'm like, okay, I'll try this out, and we'll see what happens, right?
Yeah.
My role became like 20-30% finance. What I wanted, I wanted to be like a director of finance. I told him, I'm like, now I've moved into controller. I want to be director of finance a year, 2 years, whatever, right? So, and I'm gonna build myself up there. I was calling farmers 60% of the day, doing interviews and doing product research with one of my friends. And I'm like, okay, while I like the whole startup thing, it's I have a route that I want to go into, and with a startup that's growing fast, I'm going to be able to do that, and it just wasn't happening. So I'd interview with a couple of companies. I won't get into it, but I was interviewing with a couple of companies. But thank goodness, this is the power of like your network, right? Believe this or not, I didn't even have to update my resume. When it came to interviewing these people, they knew, like the people I talked to and interviewed with, they knew what I did. I was able to go into great detail about projects I've worked on, and specific references, and so
have a conversation. Like it's not like you're having to really even prepare that much.
Yeah.
Obviously but you know what you've done.
Yeah, for
sure. So you can just talk about what you've done.
Yeah,
which is a beautiful thing, and I love that.
No, for sure. And so the thing is like, it wasn't really, none of these were formal interviews even. Like, it was just like an introduction to them, where I reached out to somebody I knew, like email introduction. Like, it's crazy. This is how things work. Like, email introduction. Okay, next thing, I'm meeting with the CEO, just having a chat, and that was it. And, then I get an offer. And so, I got 3 different offers before Rewind, but they didn't feel, none of them felt like the perfect right step. And then my friend Emil, CTO at Hoppier Decibels, he was like, "Oh yeah, this company Rewind. Have you heard of them?" I'm like, "Yeah, actually, a couple people from Farmlead are interviewing there. They're hiring a head of finance." I was like, "Oh, like, can you intro me to the CEO?" I checked out the job description. It's like 3 to 5 years experience in accounting. We'll take over the books. Will help us with our Series A investment that we're trying to fundraise, build our dashboards. I'm like reading this up. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is absolutely perfect. This
sounds
exactly
right up your alley.
I'm like, holy, it's a match made in heaven.
Yeah.
And it's SaaS. Like, Farmlead was a marketplace. Uber is a marketplace. Like, it was a marketplace business run differently. SaaS, software as a service, subscription based. That's where I wanted to be. That's the tech that I was really interested in. And one thing I'm going to say out there is like, to me, what became important was I had to know exactly what kind of co-founders I was working for. Like, that was like the first thing I thought about. Like, not pay, not my role yet. Who are the co-founders? What kind of leaders are they? Because I love, I really respect good leadership, and I know I'm all in when I know the leaders. I can trust them. You don't follow a leader. You follow a leader into a dark room because you trust them, right? That's the whole idea. So
love that.
Yeah. So, that I checked, and the community had only amazing things to say. Like people who I used to work with him, like, oh yeah, like, you know, they're fantastic guys. Like, oh, they love hockey, this, that. I was like, oh my God, like glowing reviews from everybody in the community about them, like different people in startups and other companies. And then I looked at, okay, the culture. Well, they won Best of Business in terms of culture, Best of Business Ottawa Awards, and I was like, okay, boom, solidified. You know, small team, but growing quickly, and then the role completely made sense. So when I met with the CEO, I was like, this is absolutely where I want to be. And you know, I'm like, look, like, you know, I could stay at Farmlead, I could take the other roles, but I really want to be here, because he was like, we're interviewing someone else. I'm like, I need an answer by Friday, like, but I really want to be here. You know, and I know I bring the exact experience. I can continue my journey of, you know, of where I want to go with this company. It's growing fast, you know, great, like, it has great financials, it has great team, great leadership. So, you know, that's how I came about that. So now 6 months in, you know, I'm loving the company. You know, we're looking to, you know, again, like, raise a round of money soon. You know, the team is growing quickly, and there's just so much more opportunity for me to grow and learn. I love that about startups. You know, as you go through different stages. So, yeah, that being said, what's in the future for me? It's you know, I want to be CFO one day. I also do want to run my own business one day. I do some things on the side, but that's really it. And you know, this is a company that I feel like will just help me get there. Great leadership. The CEO has all of our best interests in mind. The co-founders do. And, you know, again, it's us at the driver's seat that we drive it. He told me that himself as well. You tell me where you're headed next, right? So
I love that, man.
Yeah.
I really love the story. I love the buy-in and getting to see you grow, not
Thanks,
only as
man,
just
yeah.
my friend, but professionally and in your
Appreciate
career.
it,
All these things tie into what the story is. From, you know, trying to experience things with euphoria to the professional management consulting. All these little experiences kind of helped you figure out what you like and what you don't like.
Yeah.
And one thing I've always found is you have a high level of self-awareness, and you are an extremely selfless person. You always want to help people, and that's a quality that, you know, I think you should double down on, man, because you're helping other people makes a great impact for people around you, and I really appreciate that.
Respect,
about
man.
you, man.
I really appreciate that. It means a lot, man.
We do have to wrap this up.
I was gonna say.
We could go forever.
I know we can. You and I.
We have to do a lightning round before we complete.
Okay.
So this lightning round is sponsored by the patrons of the podcast, people who are contributing to my Patreon page. If you want to ask my next guest some questions, please consider becoming a patron. So the first one is from Erin. She's a good friend of mine, and she's been a supporter since day one. Try to keep these short, but at the same time,
I'll keep them short.
Answer the question. One piece of advice for someone who wants to create a solid morning routine, but is struggling to do so consistently.
Wow. So
a piece of advice.
You have to, you know, one thing I'll say is you need to take it in small steps, okay? I'll keep this very short. So, for example, when I started going back into the gym, I'd not worked out that much in university. I started more in the fourth year. I was like, okay, this week I'm going to work out once, and I'm going to go after work.
Right.
And the next week I'm like, okay, I know I can go after work. I can afford to go after work. I'm going to go 3 times. The week after, I'm like, okay, this week I'm going to try and go in the morning at least one day, but then I'm still going to go 3 times. The week after, I'm going to eat a little bit healthier. I'm going to eat a little less, actually. And it was all small steps, because guess what? When you try and do 3-4 workouts in a week, and you try and eat healthy, and you try and do all these different things at once, you crash.
So
and you go back.
You're destined to fail. You're destined to fail because you're creating too much change at once, and it's too radical. Great answer. This next question comes from Reese. He's a buddy of mine from the UK. I met while traveling. Great guy. He's probably running right now and listening to this. His question is, what book have you read that is a must read no matter what? To anybody. Not just business, but to anybody. Applies to anything.
Oh man, you know me. I love my business books. That's the thing.
No. Even business. But you think anybody could get value from it.
Yeah, sure.
Not just people in our kind of world.
Yeah, of course. I'm just gonna give one book. I think this is a must. It's a classic. I bet a lot of people read it out there. Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, founder and CEO of Nike. must read. A lot of good tidbits in there. It's very anecdotal, but it has a lot of practical stuff as well.
Great.
You feel really fired up after reading
And
it.
I'm gonna put you on the spot here, and not really, but like I want you to after we'll talk about this later. Give me like a list of 10 books because you read so many good ones that I'll link in the show notes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of this podcast.
I can do that.
Because I mean, 10 will be easy for you to come up with. This next question comes from my buddy Nick, a great friend of mine, and he's been supporting the podcast since day one. Shout out to Nick. What would you say to people who are very wary of the cloud?
The cloud?
Yeah, the cloud, and you know what?
Like are we talking tech cloud?
No, we're talking about like the
clout. Or was it?
Cloud. Yeah,
Okay.
like the tech, like storing things online on
the
cloud.
Yeah, well here
People who are a little more skeptical about that, like, oh, what's gonna happen to my data?
Right.
Am I gonna get hacked? And that kind of thing.
Interesting. That's funny. It comes in. Well, I'll say this for example. Everything Rewind backs up. We have customer Shopify data and whatnot. That's all encrypted. Nobody in our company can even see it.
Okay.
Right? It's encrypted. You're not going to be able to see it. Like you can only bring it to a point where it's it's available for the customer and they can use it, but we can't really see it. And the thing is companies out there are getting exposed for having bad data privacy. Guess what? They can't afford to do it anymore because their stock price crashes. One PR nightmare, and their stock crashes. Yeah. People lose trust in them. You lose the trust and confidence of investors, employees, and share. Like just in general, and your customers. Like you're setting yourself up for failure. You can't. It costs so much for companies to go through any disaster with data and the cloud. You should, as someone who's skeptical of the cloud, you should understand that we're living in a time and age where it's just getting better and better security practices. Cybersecurity is growing quickly, that industry, because companies can't afford to lose the integrity of customer
Once you lose that trust, it's gone.
Right.
Love it. Next question. This is from our buddy Zach. Shout out to Zach. Check out episode 2 if you want to find out more about what he's up to. His question is, what's the best place to find jobs in your field?
Wow. Okay. So, it's funny you say that. Yes, I'm like a finance guy, but I have helped like my brother's in marketing. I've helped him. I've helped a lot of my friends in different fields, get jobs. The thing is I've always been able to tap into my network, right? The best place. Here's the thing. There must be somebody there absolutely must be somebody within your primary circle, like within your own first, like people that you actually know and met in school that are doing something cool.
Yeah.
You should be able to reach out to them and learn about their role. And so this is not just like you're gonna look for a job and find something in a week. It's a continuous process. You have to always be keeping up with different things that are happening in the market, right?
Whether that's having a beer with someone, or going for coffee, or reaching out on LinkedIn, email, stuff like that. Yeah. That's the real networking. That's what it's all about. It's not those dumb little events that we had to attend in university where you wear a suit and you're going meeting a bunch of executives. That's not networking.
No, for sure. And I will just say, like, the best jobs, like, it's all about timing in this world, right? Like, again, some of these jobs that I had gotten offers for, there wasn't a formal posting, right? And that's the power of just being in touch with the people in your professional network that you respect, because you know what? Like, I had buddies that were in sales. I had buddies that were in other fields than me, who helped me find and get familiarized and assimilated with roles that were building up in their companies, right? So,
love it, man. This last question is from me.
Yeah.
What would be the number one advice you could give a 17-year-old version of yourself right now?
Oh, wow. It's funny you asked that, because when I came into university, I was 17 years old, and there were two. I know you asked for one, but I'm going to say two or three. One thing I heard in my first week of school, and it absolutely stuck with me the whole way. You never want to be the smartest person in the room, or else you're hanging around the wrong people. And I was like, oh, that changed my perspective completely. Yeah. I'm like, all right, I'm cutting off dumb people. first and foremost. Yeah. Second of all, if I'm not learning something new. So the thing is it worked hand in hand with the second piece of it is like, you have to be a sponge. You have to absorb everything. Some of the best leaders out there, do as much listening, if not more, than talking.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, okay, so you can just imagine how much ammunition I had by third and fourth year because I was observing, listening, taking everything in, asking the right questions. That's one other thing. Big life tip, big way to get an advantage in interviews in your workplace is being able to ask the right questions.
Right.
It's actually an art. And the last thing I'll leave, a good piece of advice that I had got is you shouldn't let the voices out there be louder than the one in here.
Ooh.
And I say that because it's so easy. You think about athletes, right? You watch a lot of football, you love football. How easy is it to get in people's heads, right? Like how easy is the media and fans, like, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Right? And so you have to take a step back and remind yourself, like, am I just doing what they want me to, right? Like, I would rather myself fail as somebody that I want to be than fail as somebody they wanted me to be, right? You know what I mean? Because that's
Love
me,
that, man.
right? And that's it. That's what I can give 17-year-old self. That's what I would leave with.
That's super powerful, bro. I love that advice. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Bro, I'll have you back on again so many times.
Oh, man.
This is just the first of many, and I'm sure people gained a lot of value from this.
I hope so.
You're honestly, genuinely one of the most interesting people, and I know you're
thanks,
going to
man.
crush all your goals and everything, and so super proud of you, man.
Oh, thanks, man.
Keep
Love
it
you,
up.
man.
Love you too, bro. Keep crushing it, and just remember, it's not that deep.
Yeah, it's not, man.
It's not that deep, bro.
Oh, man.
Thank you so much,
Yeah,
man.
honestly.
And I'll see you next time.
Yeah, 100%.
I really enjoyed that conversation with Alamin. I got a ton of value from it, and I hope you did as well. Please consider contributing to my Patreon page, subscribing, leaving a rating, or just hitting my line. And remember, it's not that deep.